This is your tech news briefing for Tuesday, July 19th. I'm Zoe Thomas for the Wall Street Journal. Today marks the start of Christie's 5th annual Art and Tech Summit, where the auction house brings together experts to discuss the role of emerging technology in the art market. But Christie's isn't just talking about tech's role in helping collectors buy and sell more art. On Monday, the world's largest auction house announced it's also launching a new venture capital arm to invest in tech startups. That's despite traditional VCs pulling back from riskier-sounding tech ideas, as interest in backing some tech startups is falling. Plus, the recent drop in crypto values has raised questions about the long-term popularity of blockchain-based art like nonfungible tokens, or NFTs. So why is Christie's taking this leap now? And what does it tell us about the future of art and tech? Joining us to discuss that is our art market reporter, Kelly Crow. Hi, Kelly. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So let's start with what kind of tech companies Christie's is planning on putting its money behind.
Yeah, so they really want to look for companies that are exploring questions and problems that have long bedeviled sort of the art world, but using new technology, right? So they're interested in companies that may be looking at ways to ease the process for people to go on and get a digital wallet and sort of spend crypto or spend their real money on digital things, or even just sort of look at ideas about authenticity disputes, ideas of tracking and cataloging art as it changes owners over time. There's tons of just inefficient ways that the art market and the art world has long tried to pay attention to how art moves around the planet. And they're really going to be looking for companies that are trying to solve some of those riddles using technology.
So this isn't really about investing in artists who are using technology or in the kinds of tech that could be used to build technology. This is about the collectors, buying and selling, right?
Well, they're interested in infrastructure as well. So, if you have a bunch of assets in one particular type of cryptocurrency, for instance, right? They want you to be able to go on any platform, any site, and just click and buy an artwork that you like, or, buy and spend things using that without having to sort of have the clunky process of trying to move currencies from one to the other. Akin to when we go on to a website to buy an airplane flight, right? The site doesn't really care if we're using dollars or euros or whatever. It just kind of seamlessly sort of converts that currency and makes it easy for us to spend however we want to spend it. And right now that doesn't really happen very easily in the digital space. And certainly using these new currencies, the NFT, the nonfungible token world is still sort of clunky in terms of those transactional things.
Have they invested in any companies like this yet?
Yeah, so far they've come forward as saying that they have invested seed capital in a company called Layer Zero Labs. It's a Vancouver-based company that does sort of precisely that. What it's trying to do is make it easier for people to spend their money across different blockchain platforms without having to, spend a lot of money on what they call, gas fees or these conversion fees.
Okay, so making it easier for people to spend their money. Of course, Christie's is an auction house, so you would assume they'd want people to come in and spend their money. I wonder, though, if you can kind of take us back a little bit and paint a bit of a picture of how much tech and art has been overlapping over the last couple of years.
Well, it's a huge departure for the auction houses. I mean, these companies, Christie's and Sotheby's, have been around for longer than our country, right? And for most of that time, like the lion's share of that time, these houses have done deals over handshakes and sort of clubby back rooms and lunches. And so much art changes hand with a handshake and with a contract that's signed. In some cases, very little technology at all. But the pandemic really proved to be a wake-up call, because once they couldn't get people into the room to physically raise a paddle, right, it really came home that they needed to develop their series of online sales. They needed to be able to put art in front of people digitally. They started looking around for companies that could maybe create holograms of fragile or oversized artworks that would be tricky to ship around the world. You can't really create an Edgar Degas, sculpture amid the pandemic and send it to San Francisco and Hong Kong. Like, it just wasn't wasn't happening. And so they really started, I would say, out of desperation to look for what kind of tech could solve their own problems. And then what they found is that there's a huge audience and a demand for that. So I would say they're kind of, all the houses are a little bit Johnny-come-lately to this, but they really are seizing the opportunity now to catch up.
How much money are these auction houses or are Christie's particularly making off of, art that is really much more reliant on tech and, maybe the kind of NFT boom that we've seen over the last few years?
When it comes to NFTs, it's a really brutal time right now, to be honest. Christie's really got the ball rolling when it sold that digital collage by the artist Beeple for $69 million. That really was like an earthquake shock, right, throughout not only the art world, but the NFT space, that collectors were willing to spend and cryptocurrency investors were willing to spend big bucks, right, for a digital receipt attached to some pixels. It really did sort of engineer a huge revolution. The problem is that now, crypto prices are so volatile and crazy that the demand for NFTs sort of at the level that Christie's likes to sell them has really shriveled for the moment. So, last year they sold $93 million worth of NFTs. So far, during the first half of this year, Christie's has only sold nearly $5 million worth of NFTs.
So then what does this tell us, long term about the art market and its reliance or use of tech that Christie's is making this kind of investment?
I think it's really fascinating because it's really fun when you see an old company that's set in its ways trying to evolve, right? We need to, adapt to both market constraints and just sort of the ebb and flow of technology. And some companies have long been resistant to that. And the auction houses were resistant to that. Galleries were. But again, because of the pandemic, everyone has had to rethink the model. Galleries are hosting, artist Q&As online now and offering you, virtual views of everything they're taking to art fairs. Some of this is just the natural way in which we're moving our lives digitally in lots of ways. And so, of course, we're going to move our collecting and our buying and selling of art online. And I think that Christie's move is certainly a signal that it doesn't want to be left out in the cold. And if new technologies are going to end up being game changers for all the houses, they just want to make sure, they get a bid in early on to be a part of it.
I like that. Get a bid in for the auction houses. All right, that's our reporter, Kelly Crow. Thanks so much for joining us, Kelly.
Thanks a lot.
And that's it for today's Tech News Briefing. If you want more tech stories, check out our website, WSJ.com. And if you like our show, please rate and review it. You can do that wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Zoe Thomas for the Wall Street Journal. Thanks for listening.